Hey everyone, welcome to a very special edition of the Superhero Show. I'm Daniel, I'm joined by Chris as always.
Hello, where are we? I don't understand where we are.
We've literally rotated 90 degrees, and also Gav.
Hello.
Now we're going to talk about Deadpool in very spoilerific detail, every aspect of the movie, so if you've not seen it, don't watch this show until you have.
Well, read your review and watch your video review, because those are more spoiler free.
They are very spoiler free, but let's get into the nitty gritty right up top. Do we think it's a good movie? You know, I've written down, does this Deadpool movie erase the very bad memories of Wolverine X-Men Origins? What do you think, Chris?
You know what, definitely. I mean, it's quite fresh in my memory because I've just watched it before coming here. And you know what, apart from when they made allusions and jokes about that film in the movie, I didn't think about it at all. I've completely forgotten it now.
Yeah.
This is a completely different Wade Wilson, a different Deadpool, and yeah, I think it definitely works on that level, like a refresh.
What do you think?
That's a really good point, though, like about you not actually thinking about it until that point, because I don't think I did either until
there's
they
the
kind of
moment
brought
where
it up.
it cuts to the action figure,
Yeah.
and there's a moment it's on a bed, but the fact that all the X-Men continuity is kind of reset, none of it really matters.
No.
And
I have kind of put that film out of my mind anyway. It's just something that just doesn't exist in my
But
brain.
it's strange because at the beginning of that film, you know, he is Wade Wilson, he is Ryan Reynolds, and there's more of this character, and you know, he's still quite wisecracky when you go on the first secret mission. It's all the stuff later that gets a really bad rap. That's such a departure from what that character is. Because at the beginning, he's got katanas, he's slicing bullets, and he's wisecracking. So there are elements, but this erases that memory because, quite simply, this is Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's all assets of the character and his performance and just the way the character looks and behaves.
Yeah.
It looks like it's walked straight off the comic book page.
Definitely,
It's such a brilliant costume. And I love the fact they've used CGI in a really subtle way to, like, animate the face.
Yeah.
But it's also in conjunction with his like larger-than-life performance.
Yeah, definitely. It's only like this week because I've been editing your review and looking at all the trailers, and you can see how awesome a job they've done on the eyes. Just the eyes are just brilliant. I don't know how much effort they've gone into it, or if it was an eye guy who was just sitting there doing it. But they're really expressive, even though they're just white.
Yeah, there's probably more CGI in this film than you realise in terms of his body and his face. I think
that's also because he's an entirely masked character, kind of what they could do with Spider-Man. Like there are scenes late on as well in the final sequence where he's entirely CGI. I think there's a couple of ones where you can tell. Actually, on that point, what do you think of the effects in general? Because, you know, Colossus is entirely CGI, which is actually a surprise to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit strange because they've obviously got the guy, I should know his name, but the guy who's obviously a huge dude and was a body double. And then they've got the guy doing the voice. I thought there'd be at least a scene where he was actually in his human form.
Yeah.
There's a bit where he's in the X-Men mansion, fully metalled up, eating cereal. He does not need to be Colossus metalled up eating cereal. And I think it's a very strange thing because say they want to introduce Colossus in a future X-Men movie.
Yeah.
They're going to have to recast because you're going to have a guy.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be new to this universe of recasting. It would just be someone with a thick Russian accent who's not the guy they used before. I don't think that would be a stumbling block. But
it's another confusing thing that happens, though, isn't it? If they get another Colossus in, you'll be like, right, how many Colossuses are there now?
Colossi.
I've actually thought he was really good.
Yeah, but it's almost, he's like the comedic Colossus.
Yeah.
Like, when he's offering people protein bars, and he's almost kind of, they do some of the other characters, I think when they come in, there's like a halo effect around Deadpool when they enter in his world. He becomes a little bit more broad, a little bit more comedic.
Yeah. I think that happens in quite a lot of superhero films, though. If you look at any of the Avengers thing, watch like Captain America outside of Avengers, and he's his own character. Bring him in next to Tony Stark. They are all starking off against each other. Like, I think that kind of happens.
I felt like there was an element to talk about the X-Men sort of angle on this. I thought there was an element of them not quite having the courage of their convictions.
100%.
So let's connect it to the X-Men universe. Let's have the school in the film, but let's have two characters that you've not seen before in this guise, rather than having someone you're familiar with. So let's keep it separate at arm's length, rather than maybe if they'd used someone that we knew and brought them into the Deadpool world already on the screen.
It's actually one of my biggest problems with the movie is one of the reasons Deadpool is, I think, such a popular and enjoyable and appealing character is he can act as this kind of larger-than-life character who kind of marauds through the entire Marvel universe. In a single issue of Deadpool, he can like barge in on any situation and pull any character, no matter what strain of the Marvel universe they're associated with, into his world. So he can be speaking to Spider-Man one minute, the X-Men the next, and then basically making fun
Whatever,
of
yeah.
40 years of Marvel continuity to you.
Yeah.
Whereas this, he's confined. He's
Yeah.
put into the margins because one, and to its credit, the movie in Deadpool fashion makes fun of it. It goes, do we not have the budget for any more actors?
Yeah.
And also, I don't think Fox really know what their current day X-Men timeline is.
That's the thing.
Because everything they're doing is in the past, and then the TV stuff is going to be separate. I don't think they want to commit to what the X-Men are in the present day.
Yeah.
Because they're really unsure.
I think that was one of my biggest problems. I liked the film. I thought it was good, not great, but like it felt really cheap to me in places, and that was a point where it felt really cheap. Where it's like knocking on the front door of the mansion, and it's like, yeah, you can make a joke about it, but if it's still a bit rubbish, it's still rubbish.
But it's also because, again, it's good because I think they turn it into a virtue, they turn it into a gag. Deadpool breaks that fourth wall and says, we didn't have the budget.
Yeah.
But it still does make it feel a bit hollow in
probably
places
true.
because there's no real X-Men mansion set. You see a close-up where they're walking to the jet. You see a close-up of them in the kitchen, and then you see her at the door. There is no X-Men mansion set. And I think little things like that. And it's a very small-scale movie. There's only like 7 or 8 characters, really.
Yeah.
There's no real big stakes for him to kind of play around with. He doesn't go into space. He doesn't travel through time.
No.
It's quite a simple revenge story.
But I don't mind. That's what you need to get your R-rated superhero movie. That's how they're dipping their toe in these waters. So I can forgive the odd crappy explosion or dodgy bit of CGI because you asked about the effects. But I thought the close combat action was actually really
it's really
good.
good.
You know, reminiscent of some of the best action films the last few years, like a Raid or a John Wick. And the way the CGI was used in those, I thought, was actually quite impressive in some of those scenes.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't really seeing the and any mistakes or any.
I think the action's definitely one of the strongest parts of it. It's really well crafted, and I guess maybe it benefits for the fact that this movie's been in production longer than it's actually been recently in production.
Yeah.
As in, there's an entire sequence of the movie which you've kind of seen a lot of it because it's the same as the previs.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of time to work on these sequences and really refine them, and it does show. Like, they're really tight, but they're also, I love the fact that he'll break the action mid-flow and like talk to you as the viewer. There's a great sequence where he tells you how many bullets he has left.
That's good.
And he's counting down, and it's really stylish that the bullets show you what bullet
The numbers are,
number it is. And there's lots of really nice touches like that.
And if you haven't got $100 million, it's the an action scene inside a car is your money shot. That's the kind of thing they've got to do. So, I was actually pleasantly surprised by.
I liked it. I think my only problem is I feel like I'd seen everything. Like there was nothing that happened in that film, like action-wise, that I felt like I hadn't seen in the trailers. Like there's only really 2 big set pieces, and everything else kind of is like a backstory that's really dragged out, I think, as well. Like because it keeps going back to different bits, and that feels like it went on for way longer than it should have, or it would have if it was just like, hey, this is what happened in the first 10 minutes and got rid of it.
Was the bridge sequence, there's a kind of a montage sequence where he's building his suit and kind of picking people off eventually to get a new lead on Ajax. And then there's the final set piece in the junkyard where there's a big derelict boat for some reason. I don't really understand what that place is or why they're really there, except that it kind of looks cool.
It does look really
And they
cool.
got it cheap.
And they got it cheap. And
How much is that boat going for? Can we blow it up?
because there's no sense of place. Like, this is New York. Doesn't feel like New York at all. There's a yellow cab, but it's not. It's a bridge in Vancouver. So I think, again, saving money, so you kind of nipping and tucking locations. It's not a characterized suit. He's not Spider-Man. You can get away without it seeming like super like New York. But I don't think it... another kind of like R-rated comedy recently, like Kingsman, had a bit more scope and scale, I think,
Definitely,
to it. But one thing that Deadpool's really known for, and obviously a lot of the marketing campaign has been kind of orientated around it, is sense of humor. You, I think, initially said like you didn't know whether this character you'd find grating over an entire movie. Well, what's your actual take on him?
I was really concerned about that,
Yeah.
and I didn't find him grating at all. Actually, I think because it didn't the stuff that was sentimental and serious didn't feel like Deadpool to me, but it gave it the grounding that I needed, so that when he was going off on these weird, crazy flights of fancy and saying all these awful things, I was with him. I'd actually become quite attached to the character. So in that respect, it worked. And it didn't annoy me at all. So it was the opposite of what I was concerned was going to happen.
I really liked the, as you said, like the sort of grounding with like the romance and the cancer thing. I thought that was really, really good, except for the fact that you meet the girl that he starts going out with, and she's a badass, and she's a really good character. And I was like, oh, that's something like fresh and new. As soon as he gets ill, she's just rubbish.
Sidelined.
Like, but she's turned into like the worrying sort of girlfriend. It's just like, well, hang on, you've just set up this girl as this really badass, this really tough as nails person. He's remained that exact same character that we've met, but she's turned into this other thing now. It's like, what?
I really thought that was the payoff for that was going to be right at the end. She's like, I've moved on. Like he'd done all this elaborate stuff to like save her and win her back. And then she's like, you've been gone 2 years. And when he took his mask off, I thought she was going, you look disgusting. I thought that would have been a really funny beat at the end, and it also just frees him up to do anything in the next movie.
I thought quite a few jokes didn't land. And you know, having spoken to the people who made the movie, they were doing 7, 8, 9 jokes per per line. So I don't know if they didn't always pick the best one. But there were lots of jokes I did really like. I've listed some of my favourite ones. Would I do some of my favourite jokes? There's a joke at the expense of Detroit I thought was very funny.
Oh, that's awesome,
National Women's Day joke when during a sex scene.
She's bumming him.
Yep. I wasn't going to say it out loud on the Superhero Show, but I thought that was very funny. Good jokes at the expense of Taken and 127 Hours.
I like
That's really good,
very much so.
Yeah, both good.
Especially when the movie comes a little bit Taken-esque as well.
Jackman mask I thought was funny. Any joke at Hugh Jackman's expense is good.
I like that it's stapled to his face, and it actually takes quite a long time to take off. And I think that's comedically where the film's at its best. Like, there's a lot of crass humour, yes, and they've kind of traded upon that. But when you get into the movie, the funny stuff, the stuff that really tickled me was where it was almost more mundane, like him coming in from a day at work and putting on his Crocs, and his housemate was building IKEA furniture, and it was just kind of very surreal
stuff you haven't seen before.
Like very strange.
That's the thing, because this is the opportunity to do something a bit different, and I think they did. I even thought it was great, that scene where he broke his arm, his hand. And it's horrible, but that's really funny and really like, that's totally. I've never seen anything like that before.
Well, the thing that it made me think of that's almost like the only thing I can think that's slightly comparable is the Black Knight scene in Holy Grail, but like the superhero version of that.
Well, I've written down Monty Python superhero movie here because that's not the only time they use it. There's 2 Monty Python jokes in the film, of which that is one. Literally, he's hopping, and obviously the one where they're
the Yorkshireman. Sketch.
Exactly. The
so good,
and it did feel like a Monty Python superhero movie in the way that those Monty Python movies sort of satirised what they were doing, but they're also actually quite good historical stories as well, where they actually there was truth to them, and I thought it was a really interesting approach.
I think my favourite joke is right at the end, towards the end, is a TJ Miller one where he just goes, "I will come with you, but." I don't want to.
Also, it's almost so again slightly referential. What's he going to do in that sequence? The film would find him redundant. I also like the little tiny hand.
That is really, really good.
To a KFC spork.
Feelings on the Stan Lee cameo?
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, he's in the club, isn't he?
He's the DJ.
Stripper DJ.
He's got nothing to do with this character as well.
But don't also put an old man like that in a strip club.
I'm sure he loved it. But also have him in. Then have Deadpool go up to him. You didn't make me.
No, exactly. With Stan Lee, you had the opportunity to do something really
elaborate.
I suppose.
It's almost like that could have been the cameo in any of these movies. Where he's playing some dude out of place or a general or something. So to talk about maybe something that doesn't work as well in the movie is, and it's a criticism that's leveled against a lot of superhero movies, it is kind of antagonists and villains. And we've got 2 in this movie, one in the form of Ajax, played by Ed Skrein, and Gina Carano's Angel Dust. And I really thought, I don't think they were given very much to do, and I just don't know who they are really or what they're doing.
I don't know what his powers are.
It's very vague. Their powers, they don't look that interesting.
He does say what his powers are. He tells him what his powers are.
Yeah, but he's highly reflect. He's got strong reflexes.
Doesn't feel pain.
But he says, "Oh, I'd love to be able to survive like you." And he does survive a sword through him, like on the bridge.
And he runs away from that.
And So he does have some kind of regenerative ability.
You say the thing is, you say that he hasn't got much to do, but what he has got to do, I thought he was awful. Just like absolutely no charisma. Like,
Well, the thing
it's
is-
like a cardboard cutout of what you think a rubbish, like straight to video villain should be. I think.
I never felt like he was more than a stooge. Like, he's doing something on behalf of someone else.
Yeah.
The thing they're doing is vague. They say we're making super slaves.
Yeah.
They don't say what it is
know.
or who's doing it or what these people are really being used for.
No.
And then beyond that, you don't see him actually do anything very villainous. He doesn't kill any innocent people. He doesn't blow anything up.
Yeah.
He's basically screwed him over. Yeah, he's evil, but
It feels like a bit of an afterthought where they've spent so much time concentrating on getting Deadpool right.
Yeah.
That they've just thought, well, we don't need to worry about the villains too much, and so
Yeah.
she's just a very faceless henchwoman who's really
terrible,
doesn't
yeah.
bring anything to the party. And yeah, I agree. I think whether it was a poor role or him not being very good, but I mean that could have been a much more. I think this is the horror movie at some points that Fantastic Four wanted to be. When he's being
Right.
tortured, it is genuinely unpleasant.
Oh, it's
But
horrible, yeah.
I think if it had been maybe a more frightening villain
Yeah.
talking to him, then it would have been more effective.
Yeah, I guess maybe like we don't know what's going on. Maybe they had something else in mind and they just weren't able to do it. They weren't allowed to use another character or something like
maybe
that.
that's somewhere they think again. Maybe we could save some budget. Like
Yeah.
the villain. You could pick a villain with more terrifying powers.
Yeah.
Who looks visually more interesting.
Yeah.
Because the idea of a British bad guy.
Yeah.
With a shaved head isn't that surprising or original.
Yeah.
I just thought there was going to be more to it, or some kind of payoff. There's no
Yeah.
payoff to what they're setting up
Yeah.
in this film, and it's not exciting enough to me to be wanting to see the next film to see where what is happening behind the
Again,
scenes.
maybe a byproduct of the fact they don't know what's happening with the current day X-Men franchise. So you don't want to commit a big character or say because. This is, Deadpool in the comics is associated with the Weapon X program.
Yeah.
I don't think they say Weapon X in
They
this
100%
movie.
don't.
I don't think they say it, which is strange. And it's because, again, they probably don't want to back themselves into a corner
Yeah.
in case they go, oh, right, next year we're going to do a
What's
brand
Weapon
new
X?
present-day
Yeah.
X-Men movie. And, oh, crap, we've committed this villain. It would be better to use him in this.
Yeah. It's because they probably don't know like where they obviously don't know where they're going with it. And they just don't know actually which timeline does Deadpool fit in.
Well, also, they don't want to include something that they do want to plan later on, and Deadpool flops, and then there's not another Deadpool, and they've recently basically used a villain that they were kind of saving,
Yeah.
and they don't want to like sully it.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think like for people who are massive fans of Deadpool, that's going to be a really big thing because people are going to be like, what is going on? Like, who are these people working for? Why not say Weapon X? Why are we not seeing more little cameos from other Weapon X people we know to be involved with stuff like that? Don't know. It feels really empty.
Again, it's that feeling that it feels slightly to one side.
yeah,
Yeah.
connected and yet not.
Yeah.
It's
Quarantined.
having their
slightly.
cake and
It's like quarantine. This is your movie. Prove
Yeah.
that everyone likes you, that you're funny enough, and then we'll work out actually a bigger
Yeah.
platform,
Yeah.
a bigger stage for you come the next movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question I've written down, and it's a
Okay.
slightly provocative one,
Let's
it's
hear this.
is, do you think Deadpool would have benefited if it was made by Marvel and not Fox for this very reason?
I don't know.
Because when Marvel launched these new characters, they do want, like, Guardians was one film slightly to a side, but
Yeah.
it feels like they're a part of a bigger plan. And he could have all those other Marvel characters from very different walks of life to kind of satirize and play around with.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think my main problem is the fact that he does feel kind of
Yeah.
in margins.
It's just quite ballsy in a way that I don't know if Marvel would put their balls out
Yeah.
on the line as much as Fox are by doing this, which is
I agree.
quite a brave
Yeah.
movie to make.
Because I think, yeah. 'cause I think
And Marvel seems much more protective of the brand
Yeah.
and selling toys. I'm sure that's obviously Fox are thinking that way as well, but I just feel like they've gone for it in a way that I don't know if Disney would.
Yeah, I think the closest that we've got is obviously Ant-Man, where they kind of gone off on a different direction, tried to do something different with it. But even that still feels pretty.
Well, Guardians,
that kind
there's
of thing.
some
Yeah.
quite edgy jokes in Guardians
Yeah.
as well. There's,
Yeah.
there's some masturbatory jokes.
Yeah.
Lewd jokes, yeah.
But yeah, so
I think they'd maybe put it on TV or find like Netflix. That's kind of how
Yeah.
they're partitioning their different tones. Whereas the
Yeah.
movies, I guess, maybe they are.
maybe so. I mean, I'll never say that Marvel wouldn't do it better because we're big fans of what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But it might be maybe harsh to level this at them.
Okay, so I really like the movie. I think it's really good. I think it will be popular. I saw it at a screener. I'd love to see it with a big audience because I think it played really well.
Yeah.
If we get a Deadpool 2, what sort of things do you think they need to do to improve that movie and make the most of this character?
I think it has to have, like as you said, they have got balls in what they did, and that's really, really good. But I think they need to go further with it. Like the little animated sequence is really, really good. It's
brilliant.
Like,
right at the end where she's on the floor and you see these little unicorns, and it's really
it's
kind
so
of
funny,
out there, more kind of.
And I think they do more of that.
I think I was talking then in terms of the humour and how far they went with the humour and the rude stuff, but it totally, like, the comic is so anarchic and so irreverent, and they just need to go further, like Gav says. Like, it's established now. You know, they've done it in a relatively safe way in terms of the character. Now just go completely nuts with the second one.
They've done the origin story, which they kind of had to do again, and tied it in. I think, you know, I've read a lot of the comics recently, and I interviewed Ryan Reynolds the other week, and I pitched him. I collected loads of like things from the comics that he's done. They're really wacky things, and just kind of rattled him out at Ryan Reynolds, and he was up for some of them. And obviously he doesn't get to decide, but it just makes you realise that this character can literally do anything. Like in the comics, he's fought monsters, he can go to hell, he can go to space, he can travel through time, he can teleport, he can impersonate other heroes.
Yeah.
Like, he's a really great character to be writing for the next movie, especially on the back of a successful one.
Yeah.
If you get more budget and it's popular, then suddenly you can do a lot of very cool things with this character.
I think what you said is, like, that's my main problem with the film, and that's why, like, I thought it was okay, is you can do anything with this character. What'd you do? A revenge story. Just like, come on, man. And it's a revenge story that it kind of is really weak all the way through it, because you think, what is he after him for? Because he wants him to fix his face. Surely there's other ways of doing that.
Yeah.
It did hit a lot of the beats that you'd expect from the genre.
Yeah.
And I thought it wasn't going to do that. I thought it was going to do something completely different.
Yeah.
Well, it has the costume sequence, and into the costume sequence is typically intercut with some kind of initial crime fighting exploits.
Yeah.
It's that bang on.
Yeah.
And it's a funny version of that, but it's still that.
Yeah.
He doesn't even make that much of a comment on the fact how he's making this suit.
Yeah.
He just does it. And I thought they would send up more of those kind of aspects.
Yeah, especially because, like, the thing that I hate about all those scenes is they start off like
crap.
They start off like jogging bottoms and a top and a mat and like a ski mat, and then suddenly from nowhere they've got this incredible suit. How has he made that? That is one of the best superhero suits like in films. Who's made that for him? Like, and I thought, you know, maybe you would make a joke about that, but then I guess you can't make a joke about everything that doesn't make complete sense, I suppose.
Just slightly missed opportunities all through there. Like, we talk about the Stanley cameo, we talk about the costume. I thought the post-credit sting, you know, cool. They had a joke at the expense of, you know, a Ferris Bueller joke.
Yeah.
That's funny, but they could have, like, had people leaving on a real shocking high, I think.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And
I would have.
I just feel like they just could have turned it up to 11 in some of those.
Yeah. I would have bet my nuts that Hugh Jackman was going to show up in that.
Yeah.
Like,
it does really feel like it's building to that point, and the fact that it flags only 2 X-Men are in it, you think they're just going to do it, maybe.
And Jackman is like...
Because he really refers to him so many times in the movie that it would have been a great payoff for that gag.
Yeah.
But, like, it is good in the fact that he flags up the kind of fact that after all these movies, we're all sitting there patiently waiting for something. And it does deny you that. But then it does kind of give you, you know, to be believed that Cable's going to be in the second movie. He kind of puts his balls on the line and commits to that. And I do think that's what they want to do, and they're going to go there. And that does obviously open a whole different kind of aspect to the X-Men universe with X-Force and Cable and time travel.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to...
That'd be really good if
that's
they
where
did.
we're going to go next?
Well, do you think the question I was going to ask, do you think it's possible now for him to join the X-Men after this one movie?
No.
No.
I don't think he will. I just don't think... I'd be
Doesn't
very
fit him, though,
I'd be very surprised in future X-Men movies if you see him appear. I think it'd be always the other way around. Characters will go into the Deadpool sub-universe.
Interesting, yeah.
Rather than because I think he's so... Like, again, like, it's that Halo effect. Those characters can come into his world and change slightly because of his presence. He can't easily go into that world. The tone's just... I think it breaks a little bit more.
No, I think
it goes that way around.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, we are pretty happy with what they did with Deadpool.
That was good. Like, I wasn't like overly enamored. Like, I think I've spoke to you guys about it. There's a really, really weak joke right at the beginning at the expense of women, and I think that's really put me in a foul mood for like 25 minutes of this film, where he kind of makes a joke about boyfriends bringing their girlfriends to see the film and not girlfriends wanting to see it of their own accord. And I think, come on.
But isn't he a bit of a sexist prat anyway? Like, he says quite a lot of jokes at the expense
He's
of women,
offensive
I
to
feel
everyone.
like.
Yeah,
That's the
I
only
guess
thing
so.
I would say about him. He's pan-offensive.
Yeah, that's
You
fair
pan
enough.
everything.
But if you've got a character that you really, if you're a girl, you're sitting in that audience, you really, really love Deadpool, and then he suddenly, literally, is talking to you, saying you've been brought here by your boyfriend, I would be a bit like, meh, that's a bit rubbish. But
Chris?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was just different enough, just funny enough to be a really kind of good antidote to the kind of similar spate of superhero movies we've had in the last couple of years, and we've been kind of moaning about that. And it just pushed enough buttons that I was really impressed, and I thought it was great fun. Look forward to watching it again.
Awesome. Now you can read what I think on IGN. You can read my review, watch the video review. Now, before we go, we want to hear what you have to say at superheroshowign.com. But we also have a very special treat. We have 4 IMAX posters for Deadpool signed by the entire cast. And you can win those if you email us with your favourite Deadpool moment from the comics and explain why you love it so much. Email us superheroshowign.com. And in the subject line, if you could put Deadpool competition, that would really help my inbox. Until next...
Can we go back to the couch next week?
Yeah, a bit more comfy. See you then.